Alright, good afternoon everybody, I hope you're doing great. In this video we're gonna talk about the max spending interrupts tweaks. Some tweaks that I wanted to make a video earlier, but I couldn't. Finally we're here to see what is happening with those tweaks, what performance advantage we get if we apply those configurations. Those configurations founded from Kizimo, and according to him, officially is founded from the existing Intel documentations. I couldn't find anything personally, but if you can give me more information by using maybe WinDebugger or any debugger to see if they actually work on the kernel of Windows, I wanted to leave a comment in the description and tell me if for real they exist or not. Those tweaks are focusing on the entire machine, and that means you gonna get a performance advantage theoretically to the old hardware, your CPU, your memory, your disks, your Ethernet adapter, your GPU, and so on. Let's open now the registry, and as you see, again founded by Kizimo, and also he provides a very useful information about what they do, some of them. And as you see, we have the CPU performance tuning, I/O, power management, the memory and latency tuning, network, miscellaneous, network adapter, storage devices, USB device, PCI device, GPU performance, audio, and so on. I must note here that if you're coming from my Discord server and you already have seen it before, you may see a difference. The main difference is that the file is shorter because I removed some configurations, because personally I had some issues and for security purposes I removed them. Apparently I will provide those configurations that I removed, I will provide them in GitHub, but if you want to be safe, for now you can try only those configurations that are completely safe, at least on my machine. Some other tweaks that I included on this file before I removed them, they included BIOS and so on, more advanced things, and perhaps that was the reason that I had some issues, blacksnakes actually, and I couldn't boot, so I should reinstall the OS, and for that reason I removed them. Of course I provide you also a revert file if you want to revert anything, and the path that you can apply those tweaks is this: the environment in the session manager, HK local machine, system current control set, control, and here we see all the words that I have applied on that machine on the registry by applying this tweak. And that's actually the main picture of this tweak. Let's go now to the analysis. Right. The outline for today includes tweaks explanation, hardware and software info, terminology, latency analysis, FPS analysis, and conclusion. I have provided some short explanation that you can pause the video and read them for all tweaks that I included on this video. The hardware is the same, the software Windows 11 Pro 24H2, latest version, latest build, and the tools that I use is CapFrameX for FPS capturing and analysis, Windows Performance Toolkit, latency capturing and analysis. The terminology for this video is 5 minutes in idle when PC starts in order to stabilize my system and be sure that nothing is running without I know it. The latency, 10 tests of 10 seconds each, FPS 5 tests of 30 seconds each. And now we are ready to move on the Fortnite latency. The first driver is the direct kernel, and as we see lower performance with max spending interrupts for all metrics. Same thing for Windows kernel and same thing for the second direct driver. Of course, when we say worse performance, doesn't mean something huge. The differences are very small and we're talking about microseconds. Okay, so that doesn't mean we're not destroying the latency by applying those tweaks. From the other hand, the driver gets some performance advantage for some metrics. Same thing for TCP/IP. From the other hand, the HD audio bus that is responsible for your audio is worse with max pending interrupts. The store port is better for some metrics, from what I see. Same thing for store accuracy, and same thing for store NVMe, same thing for NTFS. And to make your life easier, we have the big picture here. To see, for that reason, I move on so fast because I want to come on this. Here we see the all 10 drivers and the metrics that was better on the different case. As you see, the direct kernel, the Entos kernel, the direct MMS2 was completely better by default. All metrics was better by default. The metrics, the drivers with the metrics that was better with max pending interrupts is the TCP/IP driver, the NDIS driver at some point, the store port driver, the store accuracy at some point again, the store NVMe almost completely, and maybe we could say the NTFS, not so much, I don't think so. The other drivers are better by default. For instance, the audio driver is better by default, and with max pending interrupts, we have only one metric that is better with max pending interrupts. Now in CS2, we follow the same concept. Again, for direct kernel, things are better by default. Same for Entos kernel, same for the direct MMS too. Then the driver again can getting some performance advantage with max pending interrupts. Same thing for NTIS, for TCP/IP driver. That's the audio driver. Is better for some metrics, for some other metrics is not. Store port, the store accuracy, store NVMe, and the NTFS. And again, we're coming to the big picture, the metrics results. On that case, we see that by default, the direct kernel, the Entos kernel, the direct MMS2 drivers are almost all metrics better by default, but we have one metric that was better with max pending interrupts. From what we see now is that the TCP/IP driver and the store accuracy driver is better at some point with max pending interrupts, but the other drivers are very close together. So on this picture for CS2 we see a balance at some point, but for instance we see the store NVMe that all metrics are better by default, zero metrics on max pending interrupts. So on CS2 things are more balanced in my opinion, but for me guys the most important of this video is the FPS part, and you will see right now why. As you can see, the average FPS in Fortnite was better by 5 FPS. We're getting 5 more FPS in average FPS. We're getting 8 more FPS with on 1% lows, and 10 FPS 0.1% lows. The WTS dev is almost the same, and the average frame times again the same, but it's better with max pending interrupts. So based on my results, based on my terminology, based on everything on my machine, I'm getting a performance advantage, guys, by applying those tweaks. A significant improvement in FPS. I think 10 more FPS is a significant improvement. Sometimes we can get 5 FPS, more 5 FPS with overclocking, and we're getting with some registry changes. Of course, this can be very based on your machine, based on your test and so on, based on the game, and it doesn't mean that you will have the same improvement or not. You may see worse results, but based on my machine, based on my test, things are better in FPS part. And the same thing for CS2. Small variations, we don't see so huge improvements, at least in 1% lows and 0.1% lows. Adapted dev is again almost the same, and average frame times again almost the same. In average FPS, okay, we have 5 more FPS, it's not bad. So in both games we get more FPS. And now we're coming to the conclusion. Based on the results, in terms of latency, some drivers get performance advantage, but some others not. It's very simple. In terms of FPS, we see significant improvement in both games. So I'm coming to a conclusion that say those tweaks can give us a performance advantage in terms of FPS, not so much in latency. But I want to mention also that I do my tests with Windows Performance Toolkit, so I can't be sure that we haven't latency improvement. If I had tools that could capture in depth the system latency, the end-to-end latency, what we say, the display latency, so on, I could be more sure about what I say now. But in terms of latency, based on my tools, I can't say that you have a huge improvement, or actually we haven't an improvement. We have some improvement in network drivers and storage drivers, at least for Fortnite, and that means we're gonna have a better performance in the Ethernet, in the network adapter. So in extension, could say that what I say is very, very inaccurate probably, but we may see lower ping times lower latency. So this is really useful, and probably the storage improvement is also very important, especially if you have only hard disk driver, not SSD or NVMe. So that was the video. I hope you enjoyed that. My opinion is definitely try those tweaks, especially if you have FPS issues. If you have latency issues, it's not the best suggestion, but personally, you won't see a latency, worse latency by applying those tweaks. You're definitely gonna get a performance advantage, in my opinion. But as I say always, test. Don't just apply things without know what they do. If you think those tweaks are very advanced or doesn't make you comfort, just ignore them and don't apply them. But they are definitely safe for my machine. I will provide probably also the removed tweaks that you can probably do some experiments and see what you can do. That's for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you soon.